The week opening in Germany carries a weight that is hard to miss, even for those watching from afar. What is unfolding is not just another meeting or another phase in an internal discussion. It feels like the moment when a long-running process stops being tentative and becomes fixed, when something that once described itself as an experiment hardens into a permanent structure. For the German Church, and for the wider Catholic Church, this week marks a point after which returning to the previous state of things may no longer be possible. Years ago, the process now reaching its conclusion was presented as a response to crisis. It was meant to be a time of listening, of reflection, of correction and support. Step by step, however, its character shifted. What began as a space for discussion slowly took on a more decisive tone. Now, in Stuttgart, the final Synodal Assembly is not being convened to weigh possibilities but to approve statutes that establish a new, lasting body known as the Synodal Conference. This transition is what makes the moment historic. It signals the move from conversation to structure, from temporary measures to something intended to endure. The language surrounding the process tells its own story. Over the years, the names have changed, first a path, then assemblies, then a council, and now a conference. Each change in terminology has marked a widening of authority. What was once consultation has become deliberation. What was framed as listening has turned into binding votes. The center of gravity in church governance has been shifting steadily, and the final form now on the table makes that shift explicit. If you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos like this, because what you're about to hear is not just news, it's a wake-up call for every heart that still believes truth should burn brighter than silence. Now grab your rosary, quiet your spirit, and let your heart listen, not just with ears, but with faith. At the core of the change is a simple but disruptive idea, the equalization of votes. In the proposed structure, bishops, lay people, and religious all stand on the same level when decisions are made. The specific responsibility traditionally associated with the episcopal office is no longer decisive. Instead, authority is exercised through an assembly model that resembles systems unfamiliar to the Catholic tradition. This is not merely about greater participation. It represents a redefinition of who decides. In this framework, lay people are not simply consulted, they exercise decision-making power through organized bodies with real influence and economic weight. That economic dimension matters. The Catholic Church in Germany is one of the country's largest employers, with tens of thousands of employees and a complex institutional network. This reality shapes expectations and pressures in ways that cannot be ignored. Debates that might otherwise remain theological or pastoral take on the character of negotiations between powerful structures. The lay committee asked to express an opinion on the new statutes is largely composed of figures embedded within this system. The unresolved question is whether this group truly reflects the faith of ordinary Catholic believers or whether it represents a bureaucratic elite speaking largely to itself. The answer to that question will shape the future in ways that are not yet fully visible. Uncertainty has deepened with an unexpected development. The president of the German Bishops' Conference has announced that he will not seek re-election. He could have remained in office at this critical moment but chose instead to step aside. The timing has created a leadership vacuum that feels like a signal. Who will take up the role now? Will the next leader act as a mediator, trying to hold together opposing forces, or as someone fully aligned with the system taking shape? The direction of the episcopate, and the outcome of the current transformation, may hinge on that choice. Not all bishops have supported the path being taken. Some have openly distanced themselves from it, while others have chosen not to participate in the assemblies at all. They are a minority, but dissent in this context comes at a high cost. Opposition is not treated as neutral disagreement. That became clear during a previous assembly when a vote on sensitive doctrinal issues failed to achieve the required quorum among bishops. The reaction to that outcome marked a turning point. Rather than prompting reflection, it led to a change in procedure. From that moment on, votes were made public. No more secrecy. Anyone who disagreed would do so in full view. The effect was immediate. The number of bishops voting against proposals dropped sharply. It is difficult to believe this reflected a sudden change of conviction. Fear of consequences appeared to play a significant role. Public dissent meant exposure, and exposure carried risks in a climate shaped by strong media attention and organizational pressure. The statutes now under discussion formalize this dynamic. A bishop who chooses not to apply a resolution of the Synodal Conference in his diocese would be required to justify his decision publicly. He would have to explain himself, knowing that doing so would likely make him the focus of intense scrutiny. The mechanism discourages disagreement before it even emerges. In such an environment, silence becomes safer than resistance. Into this tense atmosphere came a brief but striking intervention. A letter written by Benedict XVI surfaced a week ago. Because it was private correspondence, it had remained confidential until now. In a few sober lines, the former pope warned of the risks of a synodal process detached from tradition, one that could turn the Church inward and make it self-referential. His words were measured, not dramatic, but their meaning was unmistakable. He suggested that a trajectory of this kind could not lead to a good outcome. In plain terms, it would end badly. That warning now resonates more strongly because the implications of what is happening in Germany extend far beyond national borders. The developments there will not remain isolated. When synodality is discussed again at the universal level, the German model will serve as a reference point. It is setting a precedent. Others will look to it, whether to follow or to oppose. This makes the underlying issue more than organizational. It becomes theological. At the heart of the debate lies a fundamental question: who decides what is true and what is good? Is truth grounded in revelation and tradition, or does it emerge from a vote? The logic implied by the new structure is unsettling for many. If decisions are made by majority rule, then what was once considered wrong can be redefined as acceptable. What was held to be true can become a matter of opinion. The concern is not abstract. It touches the core of how the Church understands itself and its mission. Rome cannot avoid involvement. The statutes approved in Germany will require review by Vatican authorities. The responsibility facing them is immense. Any decision will carry serious consequences. Approving the statutes would amount to endorsing a model that alters the nature of ecclesiastical governance. Blocking them would risk opening a deep rift with one of the most influential churches in Europe. Neither path is painless, and the choice cannot be postponed indefinitely. As the moment of decision approaches, tensions have intensified. In recent weeks, statements, signals, and indirect criticisms have multiplied. Practices and gestures that once seemed purely liturgical have taken on ideological significance. Even measured, calm words have been interpreted as provocations. The atmosphere suggests that no one wants to arrive unprepared. Positions are being staked out, alliances tested, and lines drawn. What is at stake is not only a particular reform in one country. The broader direction of the pontificate itself hangs in the balance. The Pope is being called to decide in a context without clear recent precedent, where any move will be scrutinized and remembered. If the statutes are approved in their current form, with equal voting rights and limited room for dissent, the Church will enter a new phase. What was once framed as an exception will become normal practice. The experiment will have ended, replaced by a settled system. This is why the week feels different. It is not simply another step in an ongoing debate. It marks a threshold, a clear before and after. The choices made now will shape the Church's path for years to come. History shows that moments like this, when decisions taken by a few affect the fate of many, are often recognized only in hindsight. Yet even now, there is a sense that something decisive is happening. The line is being drawn, and once crossed, it may not be possible to return. If this message touched your heart, like this video and share your thoughts in the comment Amen and stay with us. More Eucharistic stories, deeper reflections, and holy insights are on the way. May Christ in the Eucharist be your light, your rest, your truth. Amen.